Welcome back, everybody. We are here. Another amazing interview lined up for you guys this evening. So excited to be back here doing video interviews. As I told you guys, I've been focusing so much on radio that the video interviews kind of went to the side a little bit. But I'm right back at it. I've done so many amazing interviews that I have yet to post, but I'm going to be posting more regularly now for you guys and going to try to keep it more consistent. And so I just want to thank you guys for taking the time to come to my crypt and take in the information that we're going to be talking about. I have an amazing guest on this evening that's going to be a lot of fun to talk to about something I think is super important and needs to be talked about. So I'm just really thankful for you guys to be here. Before I bring my guest on, I'd just like to remind everybody that if you do enjoy radio, don't forget to check out my show at Revolution Radio, which you can get to at freedomslips.com. And I'm on Saturday evenings, and that's the Crypt, Rick, and Jonathan show. So I have Jonathan Wright, as a lot of us know. He's my amazing co-host. We are on 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we're in Studio B. And then I also have my show, which is on Monday evenings from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time also. And that's Studio A, guys. So if you'd enjoy radio, I have so many cool guests on there. Jonathan and I have had an incredible guest on as well. So I like radio. I grew up on radio, so that's kind of my thing. I really enjoy the whole radio format. I enjoy the freedom of it. I don't have to worry about being censored or what I say on the radio. It's really open. Any topic is open, and I really enjoy that. And it's something that these platforms that I'm doing this video on, I have to be a little more careful about the topics that we cover and how we talk about them, as you guys well know. So, just check it out, guys, if you're a fan of radio, because I really appreciate the support. But I always like to say that at the beginning, just to let you guys know, give a reminder, and I will leave a description and a link in the description, I should say, to the radio station, so you guys can check that out. So just wanted to get that out of the way, but don't want to babble too much more, and I want to go ahead and get my guest on here. Here we go. Welcome to the show, and I am going to get this right. My amazing guest, Derek Bartolicelli. And I hope I didn't murder it, Derek, so please forgive me if I did. And
No,
I just let people know Derek's YouTube channel is Awaken Your Mind. And we're going to be talking about a video that he sent me that I think is amazing. And it's a great way to bring in this topic. And it's Transhumanism Rising and the Technocratic Deception, which I think is a super important topic, Derek. And a great video that you sent me. I really enjoyed it, and some of the other ones that I watched so far. So how you been doing, my friend?
Yeah, Rick, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Wonderful introduction.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time to check out those transhumanistic images over rhymes and all that stuff. And
that was really cool, actually. I like that format that you got music going and stuff like that. It's just it's a different take on it, and I think it's really cool because I think a lot of people will like that style with a little bit of music in it, but you're also getting the message out there. Very creative. I really enjoyed it.
yeah, that one I was trying to drive home so many different subjects and topics and like issues and, kind of where the trajectory has been going for well over a century now,
Yep.
Since the Industrial Revolution and all that. And
It's a crazy
how
time.
things have changed over the past just like 10 years with the quickening of the whole technocratic static. And honestly, I kind of wanted to switch up the title of the name, but it's kind of catchy, Technocratic. But it's more these days, and it seems like it kind of always was, techno monopolistic, because it's always been a monopoly over this shit anyways. And they kind of, seed it out to the public in little increments. And, we got the whole, what is it, the light bulb conspiracy, programmed obsolescence and all this shit. And, the Microsoft, probably named after Bill's below the belt area. But yeah, anyways. Sorry, I cut you off there. You were going to say?
Well, I'm just thinking a lot about what you're saying and what you were saying, like that whole video that I watched that you sent me. And I just think that I just look at where we're heading, because you got to remember, I'm a little bit up there in age. I'm 50 years old. I mean, I don't think that's old at all. I don't act at my age, definitely.
Hell no.
And I know how much the world has changed since I was young. And I mean, I'm from a time when people still wrote letters on paper and you stick them in the mailbox, and it took 2 weeks to get to where it had to go. And then you had to wait another 2 or 3 weeks for the reply to come back. Wasn't like it is now. And I just think the world is moving so fast and so quickly that I mean we're struggling just to keep up and keep our bearings. And and I understand that technology, it's a great thing. It's making this interview happen. And I've met so many cool people using technology that I would have never been able to do anything like this. But with that, there's also a negative that I think people have to talk about. And I just see, as I was saying, that we're moving so fast with technology. And I want to get your thoughts on that because I just see, like I said, it's a crazy time where everything seems to be in 30-second blips. You got TikTok, these little clips, 15, 20 seconds. There's not, it's really, you can't absorb anything in that time. And it's just so rapid fire. So I just want to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it can be super overwhelming, especially for the older generations. I thought you were, only like maybe 8 years older than me myself. I was born in '83, so I'm like pushing 40. But looking pretty nifty for 50, man. So
Well, that's cool. That's good to hear. It's better than you thinking I was 70.
yeah, right. No. So yeah, like you made a lot of sense with what you're saying, and like a lot of people. I mean, like if it's not obvious for the majority of people, like yeah, like they're in a world where it's spelled WIRLD.
Mm-hmm.
It's whirling around, and like yeah, it's just um, it's augmenting and all this stuff, and like that's what they want to call AI now, augmented intelligence. Even though yeah, we could also call it technical intelligence as well.
Mm-hmm.
But what it what has it done? Yeah, over the past 10 years, even, like with the TikToks and all this stuff and the Snapchats and Instagram, instant gratification,
Yep.
instant fucking clickbait,
Mm-hmm.
instant dopamine hits, instant everything that is just rewiring the brain in such a way that people they're like dope fiends for this tech and like, all this stuff that, the flashy lights and whatever that, that's, but yeah, what are we at? Like the attention span of goldfish right now?
If we're
How to
lucky.
human evolution. Wow, way to go, guys. Like
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
one of my favorite lyrics from a lyricist, Azim, one of these quotes, it's like, are you playing music or is music playing you? And that's kind of what my channel lives by, how I kind of grew up and was inspired by that. And it just applies to kind of anything in life and any kind of material attachment that you might have to anything, right? Like, are you going to be having it get the best of you, or are you going to be using it to the best of its benefits for the betterment of you and rippling out for the win-win? You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? Without the
Yeah.
chagrin.
Great point.
And if
Great
we're
point.
doing that properly, then we might wield magic with the elements derived from nature, which is the true technology, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nice and
Absolutely.
balanced with the right intentions, and you got that trinity of consciousness going properly, and we can format it like a computer, kind of like how Mr. Trivium Natural Law says a lot of times, of how you can you format the brain and get the right uh, information in there, and then you have the proper
Right.
results.
I,
So
I kind
that's
of think of it as I look at it, and I like the computer analogy. It's great because for what we're talking about, but also because everybody is kind of like understands computer jargon to some degree. And I always look at it as
um,
input, processing, and then output.
that's what it was, processing. Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
and I
you.
yeah, and I yeah, that's I love that because it's easy to remember for me because I think of it just a computer, but it's so true. When you have people taking in information, that's key. You got to take in the correct information and then be able to process it. But then the big thing is getting it back out there, and that's what worries me about how quickly I see people with tech and these quick little like you were saying, Instagram. It's all this instant gratification. Definitely these dopamine rushes that people are getting from, doing a video and then people commenting on it and liking it and sharing it. Like this is all definitely a dopamine rush. They've really honed in on what like gotten people addicted to this whole social media thing, which I think is so toxic. Like Twitter and that, I just think. I mean, can it be used for good? Absolutely. And I'll always say that tech can be used for
Yeah,
good,
yeah.
but is it being used for good? Most cases, I would say no.
Yeah, and just going back to the trivium of just take it away from the artificial technology and what mankind has created, but what about the technology within man and how we got that osculated liquid crystal heart based intelligence if you
Mm-hmm.
really have that shit fucking activated, right?
Mm-hmm.
But everything is mind, all is mind. That's mentalism. That's the first cosmic law, natural law principle that everyone's got to keep in mind, right? This is kind of why I named my channel Awakening Mind, even before I even knew about natural law and all that stuff. Just because I knew, the mind is best used, when it's open, kind of like an umbrella or whatever. And
Right.
that's like simple technology. We don't always have to see technology as, something digital or computerized or electronic. It can just be something man-made. The wheel, that's the most classic thing. That's, like the tarot, the wheel, right?
Yep.
And how are we wielding these elements to the betterment of all, right? And that's kind of like what I love about, you know, implying or applying, all these, eternal principles and, take it into like the mythos and all these archetypal consciousnesses that we can kind of draw from and learn from and be inspired by and progress and truly fucking evolve,
Mhm.
not devolve like we're kind of doing right now and
We for
depending on too
sure.
much technology.
Yep.
And like even the calculator, I mean, I remember like math teachers saying how it's, there's some quote. It's like the calculators, doing to our brain the same as automobiles are to like our physical fitness. I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
just look at America and how it's so automobile driven, and it's not just that, but food intake. But
It does make sense though with the calculator because I'm remembering back when I went to school, you weren't for the longest time you weren't allowed to use a calculator. You were allowed to well actually no, let me correct myself. You were allowed to use a calculator to check your answers, but you still had to work the problem out
mm,
and show the teacher that you could actually figure shit out and then they and you could check your answer and the teacher was cool with that. But as the years went on, a few years later, then it became you can have your calculator with you all the time. And then I mean like okay, how are you learning at that point? I mean, you're punching in numbers, getting the answer, but you're not. You're skipping a very big process of figuring stuff out, of learning how to critical think. So I think if that's what I also worry about with technology too. But we will get definitely to the nature part. I promise, Derek. But I'm
yeah, no worries.
yeah, like I mean, we'll go all over it. And I'm cool with that. I love conversations like this. So wherever
Hmm.
we go, we go. And but I just like I think you bring up a great point with a calculator. I think that's one great way to look at it. Of what that it took away that critical thinking, which I think many people are lacking, and especially now with what we're talking about. Um, and then so yeah, eventually in school you could have a calculator with you. You could just figure out stuff, and that was great. And then I'm just thinking, wow, even back then, before I knew what I know now, I was like, this is dangerous. So I mean, it's just like, okay, we're missing something here, but it's just crazy. Like that, I'm sure now you can have everything, a laptop in your class. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. Or now it's tablets, whatever. All the kids got smartphones these days. It seems, anyways. Well,
Yep.
not all of them, but yeah, like going back to the old school of having to like actually read books and and
Mm-hmm.
write things down and all this stuff and actually do the fucking math and write it down and not just input things into any kind of screen or calculator or whatever. I think what that did was help us learn things and integrate them more, I
Mm-hmm.
feel. And like today with such all this learning materials and all that stuff, which is advanced and everything, but it seems like it's reduced like literature into content
Absolutely.
where it's more like disposable, if you will, and kind of just like willy-nilly, like, okay, on to the next one. It's like a fucking assembly belt of like, all right, like it's like in all this stuff and it's like inundated with so much stuff and like how many fucking podcasts are out there right now.
Oh
It's
my
just
god,
like
yeah.
ain't
Yep.
nobody got the time for all that stuff. But yeah, so I feel like with these younger generations, and some of them are actually using it to some really, really wonderful advantages and benefits. Like, Corey Andrelitz, who I interviewed, who talks about naturosophy,
Yeah.
And he's like, 20, 22 years old.
He's a beast.
So
He's
that younger
amazing.
generation, and he's doing like 100 things
Yeah,
at the same time, just like multitasking like a fucking
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I've interviewed him a couple times, and he's an animal. Like I mean, he really
Right.
gets it, and he is putting the work in. Like wow,
Mm.
you know.
Fuck yeah. So that's like a great positive example of how the youth is actually using it and actually like taking the time to read books on the side, not just
Hmm.
depend so much of screen time and this and that. And I mean, how many people actually take digital detoxes, man? I heard you earlier saying, being on the radio, all this stuff, and yeah, like a lot of people, content creators like myself and folks in network. Sometimes we're spinning our wheels a little too fast, and we gotta pump the brakes a little and fucking step aside and
Yep,
recalculate. You know,
I totally
enjoy
agree.
life for what.
I totally agree. I think you can get really consumed, which is, I mean, it's great to be passionate and into it. I get it. But I need to pull away. I have to. I can't. If I was doing that for a long time. I was basically just taking in all this, everything I could, and I was putting stuff out. But you fry yourself actually. And so I found that I make time, and which is time management, which I'm learning. I've learned a lot over the last year too, and I make the time where I am working on the computer. It's a necessary thing that I need to do to get the content out, so I got to do it. But I also take the time to go out in nature and do things. I'm not just always at my keyboard. And I think that what you say is really important. Like sometimes you have to pull away a little, even if it's just for a couple hours. I'm not saying you got to do stay away forever, but you need that away time to unplug and kind of connect into nature. I think that's so valuable for me is getting out in my yard and just sitting with no technology around me. And I think a lot of people aren't doing that. They're really wired into the system. You know.
Yeah, no doubt. And yeah, really great friend in Canada. Ex partner. It's complicated, but I mean, that's why I'm in North America right now. I would have been in Canada in the same country as you, brother, probably around this time. I've been trying to get there over the past year, but I got denied by the border. But anyways, like yeah, and she's out in winter wonderland, just
Right.
away from all the tech and enjoying the snow and all that stuff.
Important.
Yeah, and she took months off of the internet and stuff. That's why I ain't heard from her for a while, and I was like, damn, like that's pretty impressive. But
Yeah.
hey, you got to do what you got to do, and
I think it's important. I really do. I think that's a great point that you brought up. I'm glad that you did because unplugging. I think we all have to do that every once in a while. I know I do. Like I mean, if I just kept going and going, and you bring up a good point too. With all the podcasts out there, there is a lot of people doing amazing content out there. But I mean, there's only so many hours in a day. I mean, I how do you take all that in? I try to. It's like wow, like I want to listen to this person's, I want to watch this person's, but I mean, there's only so many hours in a day. So it's really, I guess, finding maybe who you connect with. I think that's important. Like out of all there's certain content creators that I really uh, sync up with well, and I think that's great. So it's great that we have all these amazing content creators out there because it kind of gives people a choice of somebody that they really connect with. I think so. That's important. I think you can't watch them all. That's for sure.
yeah, yeah, and yeah, word up to them. What is it? The Great Work Warriors with Chris Jensen, Brandon Spencer, them cats.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it was
yeah.
fun chatting with you guys last week. Yeah, I really appreciate coming on with you guys.
It was a tough topic, eh? Like, what is it to be a good man? It's like, wow.
Yeah, yeah. Because
I-
man, I've had to ask myself that like a million times
Yep.
since being divorced like 3 years ago, and just so many fucking mirror moments and shadow work and all that shit. But yeah, and like I had to even step away from how much did technology and me engaging in all this content creation take away from my relationship
Mm-hmm.
with my wife and stuff. And I even like thought about like trashing my whole fucking YouTube channel after she left me.
Yeah.
I was that fucking shattered, but kept it and all
I
that
get
stuff
that
and
though.
kind of I
Yeah.
switched up the game plan and I realized that dude, I needed to get out more and this and that. Like I was living in the south of France, on the Mediterranean beach, a minute walking away. I barely fucking made it out there.
Wow.
So I was cooped up in the lab, as I call it, just pumping out content, learning, taking my breaks, trying to get that healthy balance of the yin yang, and just learning and processing, and then bringing forth new ideas and creations and all that good stuff, and like seeing things anew, and making edits on stuff. But yeah, one day I went and bought some new technology, and I took this with me in nature. It's not for digital detoxing purposes, but yeah, I saw folks like Jeff Berwick and Max Egan do their little walkabouts with a little camera like this, and I was like,
That's cool.
dude, fuck yeah, I'm gonna do that and walk around, and like I ain't gotta be in front of a computer, and I could just do that. Editing videos is way more easier for me than like that technocratic hip hop mix that I made.
Hmm.
It took me fucking months to do, and countless hours. I literally like almost crashed my computer twice, and it was overloaded with like 50 gigabytes of just like content and material and images and videos and stuff that all compiled in this one thing. And like I was watching it earlier today, and I was like pretty mind blown. I haven't seen it in like over a year, and I'm just like, holy shit, man.
It was awesome.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
that's the thing about editing too. It does take a long time. I'm learning editing now, and I've had people warn me. They're like, "Wait till you get into editing." They're like, "You think it takes time to do a podcast? Wait till you get into editing." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, can't be that bad." Oh my god. I mean, and I don't even know what I'm really doing. I just took Mark Passio's How to Become the True Media class, so I'm
Mm.
learning a great deal from that. But I mean, I'm very very new to editing, so I can only imagine. Like, you know what you're doing, and it took a couple months. So wow.
Yeah, I kind of learned on my own and just trial and error. It's always been an experiment. That's what I say, and just taking it more lighthearted. But yeah, I've been very inclined over the past couple of years to step my fucking game up and skill sets on all this stuff on all levels, including, you know, always keeping it to the first cosmic law of, keeping the mind, leveled up as well. But yeah, I really wanted to do something like Mark's How to Be the True Media, and really, learn the ropes on more, efficient software and technology. And
Exactly. Yeah, and I was surprised
was
in the
that all?
class what I learned about his classes. There's so many different programs out there that I've never heard of. I mean, I've heard of a few of them, but it's just showing you that there's really a lot of tools out there. A lot of them are free too, which is really cool. I mean, if you know what you're looking for, because I was kind of the guy at the beginning paying for everything. I was like, oh, I got to buy this, I got to pay for this. Next thing you know, you're getting like $150 bill every month because you got all these programs that you're paying for, and I'm just like,
Man,
wow.
wow.
So I found cheaper ways to do things just as good, I think. And
Oh
there's a
yeah.
lot of great
OBS?
OBS. I love OBS, which I did. I did learn OBS on my own, so I kind of understand what you're saying when you learned how to edit on your own. I remember when I first started doing a podcast, I talked about it. My friend's like, "Well, you got to know OBS." And I'm like, "What's an OBS?" Like, I didn't know what an OBS was. And he's like, "You don't know what OBS is?" I'm like,
Call me an SOB?
yeah, I'm like, is that, yeah, like, what are you talking about, guy? Like, what? And he's like, oh, that's a program. It's like broadcasting. And so I'm like, okay. So I downloaded it and we figured it out like piece by piece. And so if I can figure it out, I always tell people, if I can figure it out, anybody can, if you put the time in. And so I'm still figuring it out. I'm not a pro at OBS by any stretch of the word, but I
Mhm.
can get by and I'm learning more all the time. I'm trying to improve all the time with it. But it's definitely, I think, a must. And it was shocking to me when I start talking to people, especially Derek. What really kind of bothers me is young people. Like, I talk to a lot of people that are younger and they don't have any tech skills. A lot of them don't even own a computer. And the only thing they have is their phone.
Ooh.
And I was guilty of that like a year ago. I only had my phone. And I learned very quickly that you can create content with your phone, absolutely, but you're not going to get the same qualities if you're using a powerful system. But what shocked me, and I'm not sure if it's ever shocked you, but just how many younger people don't have any tech knowledge. Like, the cell phone came in and everybody kind of lost interest with computers. Really crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, yeah, it's practical. It's everything you want, a magic box in your pocket.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I've seen people do magical things in like amazing things. I have a friend that uses that as like a drum machine and like makes beats off of that. And
That's cool.
but
It's kind of just disturbing. It really disturbs me that younger people just don't even have a computer, most of them. Unless they're a gamer. I do know gamers that have really nice systems, but they're using it strictly for gaming or and that. But other than that, if they're not a gamer, I don't know a lot of people that have a computer for what we're doing, maybe for work, but they just don't have. I can only go by the people I'm talked to, and anyone I was when I first started doing this, I would ask people for help, and very, very few could even tell me anything. They had no knowledge of OBS. They didn't have knowledge of anything about a computer. It was all on the phone. And I agree with you. There's great things you can do on a phone. I agree with that 100%, but it's different. I just
Oh yeah,
I
yeah, totally. And it's very limiting. I forgot what I really wanted to say, and I'm almost about to forget again. But yeah, man.
It'll come to you.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, like already, like especially when people are just using their phones for like just like YouTube and things like that. What I noticed, when I watch stuff on my phones, and even I noticed because someone brought that up on a comment on one of my videos, is that like, hey man, like why do we get all these ads on your video? I thought your channel was like non-monetized. And I was like, well, it is non-monetized, but at the same time, like the songs could be copyrighted,
Hmm.
and those owners of the copyrights, have, free range on like throwing advertisements up in there. Unfortunately, it's out of my control, but at least like the music's still out there and blah blah blah. But what I noticed is that when you watch it from your phone, you're gonna get a shit more ads than if you watch it from your computer.
Right.
And it's
Absolutely.
just like I don't know. For me, like it's just like consumption. That whole thing ties into it as well. Just like everything's fucking being marketed. You know.
Absolutely. Yeah. I look at that's what I look at the phone as now too. Is it's just a device to consume with mostly. I mean, I think about it. It's convenient. I'm not. I mean, I have one. I mean, so I can't be a total hypocrite and go against them. I mean, it does have It's great for texting and keeping in touch. I've met a lot of great people. Keep in touch with a lot of great people, but I couldn't do what I do here on my phone. I don't think I could. I don't think I could. I just think that computer just
Yeah.
you need to learn some tech, and I just from the and maybe I'm just in a group, maybe I'm kind of in a group around a group of people that I know that just aren't computer people, because I'm sure people that are listening right now going, I know tons of people with computers, so what are they talking about? I only speak for the people I know around me, and there just isn't any. There was a couple people that got me started and knew a little bit. I knew one tech guy. If I could get him over here, he was the one that really got me started with OBS, and we kind of figured stuff out. So I had a little bit of help and a push, but most people just couldn't help me. And I just think that that's really dangerous. I just think it's a dangerous place to be when they're using this tech against us, and people don't realize that we have to use it back against them.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, like, just the silent weapons for quiet wars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How many people got these, wireless like things stuck in their ear? Like almost all day, I've seen some of these people like
Yep.
EMFs. Anyone, like, and yeah, there's some things that you can do. I mean, I really don't try to have the Bluetooth on much at all. These are the headphones I rock. You got my little
Oh yeah, those are cool.
taking the time to promote Awaken Your Mind. No, just kidding. But yeah, like you can get. I mean, you can
Yeah.
buy
Yeah.
things off the internet that are anti-EMF and slap them on your computer or any kind of thing, like even microwaves if you got those or whatever, but
Yeah.
I'll let you take it, man. I forgot what.
That's not no. I agree. We just did it. I just did a show with somebody. We were talking about microwaves and frequencies and how they're cooking us in them. And she definitely like I knew it was bad, but when she kind of broke it down, and we were talking about cell towers and the radiation coming off them, and I got a cell tower that they not too far from me, and and I've even noticed the changes since they put this thing up, and I agree. I see people all the
Mm.
time with, like you said, those headphones in. They're always surrounded by they got their phone on them, and then they got these headphones in, and I think of all the Bluetooth in people's houses with all the devices. It's all, and then you think we're bathed in this frequency and this radiation that's we know is doing damage. It has to be.
Yeah, and
It's
that's part of
crazy.
the That's kind of what I mentioned as well. Is like our bodies start to get used to it, and like
Hmm.
it almost like it gets addicted to it almost. These frequencies and everything.
Yeah, and I just wonder how, like, what are we gonna see in years coming down the road? Like what is coming down the road from being
Ask
exposed to
H.P.
this?
Lovecraft.
That's a good point. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that brings up folks like that and Aldous Huxley and Slave New World or the 1980 horrors
Yeah.
or Orwellian nightmares and shit like that. I mean, it goes into the whole pharmaceutical stuff and like the bad side of technology is taken away from nature is just like how everything's being like synthesized, and like we're trying to mimic nature for
Absolutely.
our benefit, but at the same time, it's like mimicking nature and like trying to play God and all that stuff and trying to be better and even usurp nature in some transhumanist wet dreams and all that
Hmm.
shit. But
I
yeah,
totally
man.
agree. I totally agree that's a great point that they're synthesizing everything now. When you think about it, like our food is barely food. I think most of it. I mean,
There's nanotech in some of that shit.
yeah, and then I think of I gotta be careful on the video saying it, but I mean, what happened over the last couple of years in the whack and stuff, I call it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hmm.
what they're doing with that and what they're finding that out is happening now to people that have got it, which is crazy. I've seen some stuff on that and looked into it, and wow, and
It's supposed to be a primer
yeah,
for things to come. You
yeah,
know,
and
that's what the alien invasion is kind of what that's about.
I could
It's
see that.
through us, not from the sky, in a
Hmm.
sense. People just haven't looked into some of these things, and like they're worried about all these other psyops and other stuff, but whatever.
Yeah, I agree, I think it all plays together too, like with the 5G and what they're putting in people's bodies now. I think this is all it's a perfect storm, and it's a plan that they have. And yeah, I've tried to talk to people about that too, Derek, and some of them just kind of look at me like I'm off my rocker, but I'm just like, wow, you can't really see what they're doing, but they're synthesizing our food, and they're really hitting us. I always say from every angle that you can think of. They've really got their shit together, and we're kind of floundering. Most people are arguing over stuff that means nothing in the long run. It's not really. It's just stuff that doesn't matter, and we're arguing over it, or we're consumed with the latest sports on the whatever. Or I just think of all the distractions that are occupying people's minds, and they're not looking into these things. And I mean, it's a rough one, and it's so true that they're pulling us away from nature. Absolutely, I 100%
Yeah, and
agree
they're
with you.
in a sense like pulling us away from ourselves as well, and
Hmm.
and also just it seems. Have you noticed? People seem more like isolated than ever before since the dawning of the Rona, especially, and all that. Even though we have the best technology to we're speaking on video chats, something that we thought was only a magical pipe dream from watching like Back to the Future in the 80s or something. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, if you would have told me back when I like in the '80s that I could do this, that I'd be like, really, I can interview people from around the world, like just talk to them, and I can put my own content out, and people can see it. Nobody would have believed it back then. They really wouldn't. Like, it's amazing like where we are and with tech wise and how it's becoming more and more accessible, definitely, and people are able to wield it for good. I totally agree, but it's just I see how much bad is going on, and especially things like we were talking about TikTok and that, which I think is so. I get it. I mean, I know a lot of content creators that use it for good. They promote their channels, they get a quick message out, and they're doing it for good, but that is the small minority compared to what's on there. And I just think to myself, like, really, I mean, I've been looking into TikTok, and
Yeah.
ooh,
I
it's
mean, what about the origins of that? What about this whole finding the Dragon Ball Z stuff and like these like digital social experiments
mm-hmm,
that people don't even understand? Like, yes, like the vast minority of people, I guess, understand like the whole historicity of the computers made by DARPA or whatever it was called back in the day, and all
yep,
this stuff, and like smartphones connected to that kind of stuff, and the whole state of surveillance has created the biggest brother.
oh God, yeah, I was just
which
talking to
is a
my
mix of
mother
the
about that today, actually, about the cameras all over. We were just talking about that. I was just like,
facial recognition. What do you think TikTok is doing
yep.
sometimes, or things like that? Snapchat. You heard
Yep.
about that, right?
Oh
How many
God, yeah.
little, preteen kids are fucking with that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, but anyways.
It's
Oh,
crazy. It's crazy, man.
said that.
Yeah, and I definitely have looked into like you said, the Snapchat and TikTok and what they're doing, and it's definitely like, and then facial recognition, like you said, because I was just like I said, talking to my mom about like how there's cameras everywhere now. Like, I mean, you can't go anywhere. Like anywhere, like and even if you're in a neighborhood, you got people that they got doorbell cameras everywhere, so you're wired for sound basically anywhere you go. They got you on a camera and they're surveilling you. And to think that they're not using technology to track us is just crazy. I have a lot of people that are like, oh, they're not doing that. You know, what I mean, they're not doing facial recognition. And a lot of people live in this denial. And I'm like, wow, like they got a lot more trust in the system than I do
Ha!
because they're using it for evil. Like,
Yeah. But what's funny, I was just thinking, and I think I saw this on a poster somewhere on the internet, but yeah, for the majority of people out there, Big Brother is watching you, and he's bored as shit because you're only doing nothing. You're just passively and tacitly consuming and complying with whatever's going on, unfortunately, and people don't actually make the time when they say they don't have time to actually look into things for themselves, within themselves, and and that kind of stuff because everyone's kind of got their after work routine, maybe cracking open a cold one, and they got the
Mhm.
Netflix on now and all that. That's their programs, like they don't want to make time outside of that sometimes, so a lot of people copping out on true connections with people again, and it's just taking us away from true connections, people to people. And what do we have going on right now with computer love on steroids?
Yeah.
Like, what do we got now? Sex robots? And have you seen, like, I think there's even like a movie that kind of has that, woman falling for this, AI guy and this and that. And it's really creepy. And
I know that movie. It's either
it's like,
called She or Her. It's one of those words.
okay, yeah.
It's
So
her
I
or
mean,
she. I can't remember, guys. Let me know in the chat. But I know the one you're talking about.
mm,
That's a weird movie, and I'm surprised we're not there. Like, I really am. I'm surprised there isn't a program like that is like that. Because I mean, a lot of people say we have like Alexa and stuff like that. Not what we're talking about here, guys. This movie is like, basically it's like a, a person, but it's like an AI relationship. It's really, I'm surprised they don't have something like that.
yeah, I mean, this is what computer nerds, fantasize about, and because they're too cowardly to, step up like a real man,
Hmm.
like we were talking about last week. And I was joking, actually, that crossed my mind actually during the conversation of, some of these people. It's like, you know, hey, baby, I won't have sex with you, but I'll build a robot that will, you know,
Yeah,
transhumanist, H plus,
yeah. Well, they want us wired into that system, right? And I mean, I still remember. I'm sure you've heard when Elon Musk was talking about that whole neural thing where you shoot it in the jugular and it wraps around your brain and it's gonna neural net.
Neuralink.
Neuralink, that's it, thank you. And
Hmm.
I was just like, and I was talking to people and they're like, oh wow. I was like, would you do that? And they're like, yeah, I would do that. And I'm like, wow. Is this where we're at, where people are actually considering jacking into the matrix like that? Like I mean, really, like, people say we're jacked in now. Oh my god. But that's where they're going, don't you think, Derek? That's where they want us.
Exactly. And it's, yeah, it's shocking that people's, I mean, it's not that shocking once we understand like people are being programmed on top of programs on a multitude of levels, and conditioned since birth, pretty much, with a lot of people who haven't had conscious parents or, listen to Will Keller and folks like that, Dana Martin, Indigo Martin, that talk about conscious parenting.
Hmm.
But it it comes down to people's free will choice, and they're actually choosing to integrate with AI and enjoy this augmented reality, and it kind of comes down to, and what I noticed, the trend is just in. You could apply it to so many things of how people just don't want to take full responsibility for themselves, and they want to go get into like the life hacking stuff, and like bypassing, real ways, the science of life, to actually fucking, navigate this reality properly, and, come into adulthood more of a, stellar human being, as we're born to be, actually, not depend on all this fucking tech, rely on the true technology within yourself.
Absolutely. Well said. Yeah.
Right.
The work, that's, I think that's what we're lacking, and I've said this a lot of times too, is the work that people are not doing on themselves. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I say that that's key. That it was for me. That was the foundation I needed. Was I had to start doing the work on myself. Like, I mean, I think a lot of people, like you said, they're looking for an external quick fix to things. And are we being programmed that way? Absolutely. Everything's quick fix now. That everybody wants the quick, lose 100 pounds in a week, and all this stuff. And it's like, wow, there's work involved. And what I learned very quickly, not quickly, I don't want to say quickly, because I was stubborn for a while. I mean, it took me a while to realize it, but I realized I had to really turn inward and go really deep, and I start asking myself some very tough questions and be brutally honest with myself. And I think that's mostly what people are lacking now. I don't think people, Derek, have any idea who they truly are. They are going by what the latest fad is, the latest fucking new thing that is going to make them popular. Means nothing to me. I never understood that. It's like, what does this matter? Like, if you don't know who you are, like,
Yeah, totally. And yeah, unfortunately, it's this generational issue, lack of, conscious parents, and, born into families that don't necessarily know each other, babies having babies and all that stuff.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And yeah, for for as long as you've been alive, at least there's been television, right?
yep,
And what have we said over the decades of kind of realizing, like, oh, wait a minute, television is kind of the love killer, right?
yeah,
Well, what the hell has happened like over the past like 2 decades even? It's like, tablets, smartphones, social media. Those are like the love murderers and like serial killers, you know what I mean?
yeah,
It's on steroids right now. Fuck, like Freddy, Jason, and all them cats combined, man.
yeah, yeah. I think social media is so toxic in a lot of cases. Like, wow. And I mean, I don't even have to look far. Just go into YouTube comments of most videos, and you're going to find plenty of this toxic environment. And Twitter, I stay away from. I don't even fuck with it, because I just think
Was.
it's so toxic. And I mean, like I said, I'm not saying that's the rule. I'm just saying it's my experience. And I know people do use it for good, and I'm sure I could. But I just see how toxic social media is. And you're right. I mean, because back when I was growing up, I mean, yeah, we had TV, but we didn't have the million channels that we have now. We didn't have anything like what we see online now. We didn't have YouTube or any. There was barely an internet. Like, I mean, there was no internet when I was growing up. It was that came later, but my parents would limit my TV to maybe an hour. Like, it wasn't like it raised me.
That's
And
cool.
now what I see is technology raising kids, parents kind of giving the tech to their kids, and that's their new babysitter. And I think that's so dangerous too, because while you're losing out on so many things, you're not spending quality time with your child. You're not really teaching them anything, and then you're giving your child over to tech and what they're watching online. I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean, I'd like to get your thoughts on it.
On
Uh,
on like media raising kids
yeah,
and all
yeah.
that. Well, yeah.
There we go.
Take a look around, people. What's really going down, people?
hmm
uh, yeah, there's always the double-edged sword of, this is a tool, and how are we using it? And again, how are we abusing it? How is it, playing us, and just letting it get to the best of us as well?
Yeah.
And what I also noticed is that, yeah, going back to the whole, computer love stuff, but more like on the sex robots or whatever the hell.
Right? Yep.
No, I mean, like, this is a real thing. You can look it up in Asia. There, anyways, but all this stuff seems to be driven by, these lower chakra desires and, lower base level consciousness stuff.
Mhm.
And that's where they want us. And that's what is the technology. It seems to keep people at with, yeah, just all the minutia and stuff. And yeah, amidst all that, there's some great things, of course, and like being able to network and socialize, and even on the meta whack fake book or whatever these days it's what called, and this and that. And hey, hi big brother, how you doing? Like, do you like what I'm doing?
Yep.
Are you getting wet over there? Like, what the fuck, perverts. I'm over
it,
here now, but yeah.
yeah, it's
uh
so true. Wow, like, and I'm just thinking, you make great points, man. Like, we
Me too, man.
definitely,
Thank you.
well, we just think alike on that because I want to talk about, and I mean, I think a lot of people, I hope most people realize that, know that there's good and bad in it. I don't ever want to paint tech as something totally bad, but the way that it's being used against us is definitely evil and satanic. And I mean, the social engineers are using it well, and I just really wish people would see that more than they do. That they're really being steered by stuff that doesn't matter. I mean, I just see all that. I see it as distraction. I really do. I see like sports. I always did. That made me a very unpopular with a lot of people because I'm not a sports fan. I never cared about it. Like, I just don't care. I just think there's better things I can spend my time learning about. Not putting anybody down that likes sports.
Ha.
You know what I mean? But I'm just saying, for me,
Yeah.
I see all the distractions out there, and it's pulling people away from each other more and more. And then I think of social media doing that too, driving a wedge even more because now everybody's got an opinion. They're all online. They're arguing with each other. They kind of dig their heels in the sand because they want to be right. Nothing gets solved. You're kind of like this stalemate where everybody's just firing at each other and trying to be right. If you know what I think you know what I'm trying to say. I just think it's very toxic, and
Yeah, totally. And what social media has done is, like, it's people that are creating the toxicity. It's not the technology.
right,
Let's keep that in mind.
very true. Good
It's
point.
people against people, man. What's going on? And why are, yeah, like, social media in a vehicle to drive, like, the polarization beyond belief, and have all these echo chambers everywhere on any corner of the internet,
Hmm.
and it's not just the internet of things anymore, it's the internet of people. And that's where they're trying to take all these frequencies and the integration of AI as well. And how many people are on board with that, and like really getting excited, and they can't wait, and they got the what is it, VR glasses or
VR
whatever, virtual
goggles.
reality. And
Yep.
how much escapism do people need, yo? Like,
I know. Well, I did. My friend I was telling you about that knows tech, Derek. He show. I didn't even know these places existed. This shows you how like I'm still catching up. He was showing
Mhm.
me these cities that people. This had to do with cryptocurrency, so I can only go from this angle. But these cryptocurrency rooms, and I know that some people might know what I'm talking about. I don't know the terminology, so forgive me, guys. But it was like a virtual world that it was kind of like you had to have this certain cryptocurrency to buy into it. And you could buy a house, and you could buy, and people were just flooding it, like living in these worlds. And I was just like, wow, and there's really places like that. Like there's just people socializing, but they're all in these avatar forms, and they're living their life in this virtual reality. And I'm just like, this is crazy. And then I think of video games too, how high tech they're getting. That we're not far from being plugged in and actually in the game, like literally in the game. I mean, we're not far from there at all. And people, I think, are going to dive right in. They're going to Most people are gonna dive in, and I'm just like, not me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, we came a long way from like Sim City and Minecraft and this and that, and like building blocks.
yeah,
We
Tetris.
used to have, yay, Legos, man. It was plastic, but whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah,
it's
like
just
base
crazy.
level consciousness, checkered floor, Masonic, duality shit that we're trapped in. Unfortunately, we can rise above this. But like the idiot box, how many boxes are there? How cubes, black cubes. It's so symbolic to all this stuff, and like they're having occult mockery of blockheads in Europe, with the Tower of Babel on one of their
Hmm.
European Union posters with all the stars are fucking inverted as well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like, what the hell?
Well, that's what they do. They invert everything too, right? That's the thing I've noticed too. They take everything good and invert it. And like, there's so many things we could talk about, Derek. I tell you, I'm enjoying this because I know you know what we're talking about. Like, so it's great when you can talk to somebody that actually gets what you're saying, and I just hope people are taking away from this some good that we're saying, and to be leery of what's going on at least, and start becoming aware of it. Um, because I think we're on a dangerous, very dangerous point. I think we're on a tipping point where people have to make some really important decisions in their life, and really go inward. I keep saying that. That's where I keep going because it's so important that people don't know who they are. They just don't, and I get it. I get it because I was there at one time. So I don't want people to think that I wasn't there. I was there, man. I mean, years ago I was there. I didn't know who I was, but I see the distractions, and that's what bothers me too. They, like we were talking about earlier, they got pick your poison. I mean, they got so many shows online. They got the internet. They got video games. They pick. Well, you know what I'm talking about. I don't have to go through them all, and it's just breaking people away from themselves, I think, and that's why I think we're where we are right now.
Yeah.
It's a
Is it
tough one.
true that the only way out is in,
Yeah.
my friend? And yeah, that's where it begins, really. And yeah, all the tech distracts us, and takes us away from that, our divine soul spark, creative energy, in
Mm-hmm.
essence. And yeah, we see so much out there. I mean, I'm subscribed to like 400 YouTube channels. I had to, sift through countless hours of like looking through images, creating that uh, the Decepticon, hip hop mix that I made,
Mm-hmm.
and like learning what the hell is going on the other side. There's a YouTube channel called like H plus, I think, and for those who don't know, H plus stands for transhumanism, basically. And they got, oh wow, check out what they have been, displaying, and what they're, getting really excited and like foaming at the mouth
Wow.
over, almost, or drooling rather, licking
That's
their chops.
well, yeah. They're just so excited to integrate into the system, and I'm like, I don't want no part of it. Like, I'm like, no, I want to get back to my nature. Like, that's where I want to go. Like, I mean, that's where I'm drawn to. Um, I don't want it. I would never want to jack into the system. I'm doing my best to unjack from the system as much as
Hmm.
I can, not be part of it. But that's where we're heading. It really is. I mean, I think if right now, if you could, I'd like to do a survey. If you could survey everybody, Derek, like, listen, you can like plug into this system and you can live your life in this virtual reality instead of real life. You know how many people would take that and do it? Oh my God! Like, the
Yeah,
number would stagger me. I'm sure
that'd be an interesting social experiment. I might tinker with that.
we
But
should.
yeah, um, this wonderful woman talks about reality transurfing and popping in and out of the matrix to, help
Mm-hmm.
bust people out of that. And that falls into uh, a term that I kind of created myself and thought about making a YouTube channel called Mavericks in the Matrix or something like that.
That'd be
And the
cool.
slogan is, "Hey, be the glitch you want to see in the Matrix," or something like that.
That's actually cool. Yeah, be the glitch. Be the yeah, definitely yeah. That would be a great experiment, wouldn't it? Just I really like to know the number. Like do a poll. Like, would you jack into the system and you have to live your life in that system? And
But would
then
they know kung fu?
yeah, like, well, I know. Can you imagine? That's how they sell it though, right? Like, look how they sold the Matrix movie.
Yeah.
Like, you can learn all of this instant, no work. Just download, boom, you got it. And
Yeah,
it's
man.
it's like, I mean, but what are you giving up? And there is a movie, I can never remember the name of it. I've asked people, I can't remember it. But there is a movie that people jack in. Like, I
Ghost in the Shell? No, that's
that
something
might,
else. But
yeah. There's one where I can't remember the star of it. I keep thinking it's Bruce Willis, but I could be wrong. And
mm,
they're actually plugged in, and they got metal avatars that they walk around in.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Either some kind of Matt Damon movie or something like that.
Yeah, and they everybody's got like lying in their apartments, but they're all living their life in these metal robots,
Yeah,
and
right.
they're getting
It
their
reminds
hair
me of
done.
Ready Player One as well. I used some of those clips in the video that I put out as well that we're talking about. Of just like, yeah, everyone's living in a computer world. Everyone's, like they have more time and energy and focus invested in the digital world than the real world.
Right.
That's when you know you got a problem. And like, wow.
That's a great point though, but I'm thinking like they're showing. I just the reason I bring up the movie is because they're showing you where they want to steer it. Like I mean, to me, that's what they're showing is like this is where we're heading, and I just see people more than eager to do that. And I mean, I think how miserable do you have to be in your real life to want to do that? I mean, that's why maybe I don't want to do it because I'm like I'd rather be in the real world and in learning about myself and that. I don't want to just give up who I am and become this shell living in a system. I don't want, I never want that for anyone,
Yeah, yeah,
and
likewise.
it's a tough one, man. I mean, I get it. It's a great conversation to have. Um,
Yeah.
because I love tech in a lot of ways, Derek. I really do because it's
Yeah.
amazing. It may I found you that way. I would have never met you, I don't think, if it wouldn't have been for tech. So, and I wouldn't have met a lot of amazing people over the last year. But I also know, like we were saying, there's a negative to it, and I don't think a lot of people look at it that way.
Yeah, unfortunately, that goes for people like making great content on YouTube or wherever, or like actual professional video makers that you see all these commercials and stuff. Like that's really like well done stuff, but it's used for the wrong way.
Yep.
And imagine if these people with these skill sets actually had that unity consciousness integrated within themselves and it did the work and used that tech for something good and inspired the hell out of millions of people that would be subjected on that level,
Mm-hmm.
or being able to see that, even though of course we know the execs and all the media monarchy is controlled and all that stuff.
It's true, yeah. And I remember Mark Passio talking about in one of his podcasts that they like there is a lot of great people do it, like learning the tech side of stuff, and then but what happens is these big companies scoop them up right away if they are showing any promise, and then what do they get them doing using their skills? And this really resonated with me, but like what Mark Passio said, they're taking these amazing people that know tech and they're getting them to make stuff like apps that you get on your phone, like these game apps that are just mindless game apps that just occupy your mind and distract you. And that's what they're giving them this amount of massive offers they can't refuse. So instead of doing what you just said, putting it out there, putting using it for a greater good and using it to educate people, they get bought up by these these elite
Yeah,
shit
and that I've been saying
shitbags.
this. Yeah, been saying this more and more, and like you have to tie this to like almost any industry or field of profession that the powers that wish they be, they are recruiting the best, the brightest,
Mm-hmm.
the mavens, the sex appeal people, to have the people's champions, to have that influence and have them distracted on celebrity worship instead of their own lives, that kind of stuff. List goes on with all that. So yeah, of course they're going to recruit some of the best technicians and people having these wonderful skills to create incredible media, that really captivates people's attention. Like, and how many
Yep.
people in the alternative media are actually like trying to step up to that same level? Not a whole lot, I noticed. And I noticed that people aren't taking enough pride in like put in like some good aesthetics, or and when I say pride, healthy pride, like take pride in your work, like your word is bond in a sense, and that conscious expression. I see people putting out videos like it's willy nilly, as if people got all the time of day to like watch that kind of stuff, and like not even a good thumbnail image and all this stuff. And it's like, yo, like, do you understand the competition you're up against, yo? Like,
I think a lot of it's like we were saying earlier, though, Derek, is that they don't know how to do it. I think YouTube makes it very easy to just, if you have a phone, you can put a video up, So I think that that's where the trap that people get into. I'm guessing, I don't know. I'm just using what I think is that a
Mhm.
lot of people, they've made it like TikTok super easy, right? Throw a clip up in no time. Uh,
They
and
do
I
all the work for you. They have all these
Yeah,
templates and like, yeah, I don't even know about it, but I've seen, yeah, sorry.
yeah. I know people that are hooked on TikTok. Oh my god, like they just constantly post on TikTok every aspect of their life. They're always putting up new stuff, and I looked into TikTok, but but for some reason I don't know whether it was just meant to happen or synchronicity or something. But I started learning about what TikTok really was, who's behind it, and what their agenda was, which I pretty much knew. Like, I mean, I think all these apps have a hidden agenda that we were talking about already. But then I stopped. I was like, I ain't touching TikTok now. Like, nope. But I also, on the same side, as I was saying earlier too, Derek, I know people that are using TikTok for good things. They're putting out great messages. They're advertising with it. They're getting lots of hits. So how it's
Yeah,
used, I
my great
guess.
friend Odie, uses that to promote his business,
Yeah,
and so yeah.
yeah, I get it. So I mean, it's one of those things. I guess it boils down to what we were saying earlier. It's how you use it. But I mean, I just think of all the content, like all the information they're getting from people from these apps, like TikTok. It's like, wow, they're really, and they do with all apps. I mean, they're harvesting our data, which I think everybody would agree. I hope everybody would agree with that they're doing that. And yeah, it's crazy, And now you got me thinking about the whole fucking sex robot shit and that now. Because you're right. I mean, you're right. I'm because I know friends that are single and they're on these dating apps.
Oh yeah,
It's
and they get swiped up hard, I bet.
Oh God, yeah, and I'm like, and that's what I asked that
So
on my radio show
disposable.
recently. I'm like, is that what dating? Like when I was younger, you had to date somebody. You took them on a date in person. You got to know them. Like that was the at least the gist of it. You hung out and all that. Is that really what dating has become? Is a swipe, like,
Yeah.
and it's just like, okay, nope, nope, nope. Oh, like them, okay, and then that's it. Like that's where we're at, Derek. Like that's sad. I mean, we are in trouble.
Yeah. And you
Yeah.
wonder why, like
Like relationships
constantly,
don't last, why they fail. That's what I'm thinking. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I've been married. I've been married too long. I've been married 25 years. So,
oh wow, cool. I was married for almost a decade myself, and I feel more old fashioned in that regard. Of just
well,
yeah,
it's rare,
being
dude.
faithful to one person.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
that's
cultivating
cool.
that true organic love, man.
That's
I know you're a
work.
good family man. That's
Yeah.
awesome, man.
Yeah, well, that's work. I mean, it takes work. I tell people that all the time. They're always like, and then it's really funny when I talk to people. A lot of people, I'll be like, I've been married 25 years, and they're like, oh, how many wives is that? And I'm like, what? How? What? Yeah, you have multiple wives, and you add it all up, and that's your marriage? Like, wow. Same woman, thanks. Like, and they're just like, so, and a lot of people are, I think they want that. I know that people do because I talk to people and they're like, that's what I want. And I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't, you're not going to find that. I don't think on a dating app. I'm sure it happens, but I just really, yeah, you got me thinking about that now because I was talking about it earlier
Yeah,
on
it
a,
seems it just ties in with the whole social media stuff as well, and like the lack of patience and attention even, and just it's just surface level stuff. And yeah, like folks are just getting swipey with it, with everything in their lives. They're swiping their, bank accounts on their phone. Yeah, like everything, man.
I know, yeah, I don't know what to, I get lost for words too. I'm just like, really, is this where we're at? And then where do we go? Like, if this keeps going, I mean, we're at, wow.
But have you seen? I mean, I'm sure you noticed the like what we were talking about earlier as well. Like just like the polarization of like these echo chambers, and they seem to get like more compartmentalized even, and yeah, dating app people. It seems like like the information is so specific. So if there's only one thing that's not congruent, like forget about it, or
Hmm.
like.
Yeah,
I'm gonna swipe hard or left on that shit or right
yeah,
or
yeah,
I don't know where that goes. Like the hell?
yeah. I mean, I think the whole part of it is you got to get to know people and I mean that's the whole dating thing. If I was single, I don't think I wouldn't get like not at my age. I wouldn't get along with this swiping shit because it'd be very it's very when I see people doing it and I'm not like I said, I'm older guy, so hey, bear with me. I mean, maybe I'm just not hip or something like that, and I'm fine with that. I'll take the old fashioned dating over what I see going on, and this instant, once again, gratification, right? It's all this instant, right? Like I don't know. I think that a lot of the great stuff with dating is getting to know the person and hanging out with them and spending time with them and not just rushing right to the end. Kind of is what I see what these apps are doing.
Yeah, like people like like expecting to marry some like or
Yeah, it's and then
that's like the
instant
first thing
hookup.
off the bat they want. Like I'm looking for marriage, straight
Yeah,
up.
yeah, or instant hookup. Like I mean, it's just like, all right, well, I'll be over in an hour, and it's like, wow, okay,
Just at the same time it takes to order a pizza, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah. And that's another thing I think about too a lot is how we're getting very reliant on tech for so much, and we're losing a lot of our skills. I mean, I just it's all isolation I see, and I see that with all these like Uber Eats and these all of the you can order your groceries and they can send it to you. I've seen it definitely over happening over the years, but like over the last few years, it's really ramped up, and I'm glad you brought that up earlier. That we're kind of we're getting more and more isolated
Yeah,
than
but
ever.
yeah, the point you brought up is something we could address a lot more of just the loss or lack of life skills of actually like doing it and having hands-on stuff and experience.
Hmm.
It goes such a long way. I mean, I know people have different like learning preferences and modalities, but I think there's like certain integrations of things that are just like, and like, what about social skills, man? Holy smokes! Like people in public, when they're out, not in the digital world anymore, and they're so used to, they can't talk the way they talk, on social media. You know,
Very true.
they don't have the same personality. They don't have much of a personality, almost like in the real life. Like,
Yeah.
or even before the social media, it's like pop culture reference people. That's or poop culture references. Mario West likes to call it. Like it's just a same shit, different smell, almost in a new mutated techie form.
Yeah.
Newest platform and all this stuff.
I
Yeah.
see people now. What it's crazy too is that even if they are in public, I'll go have a coffee or something, and I like to people watch, and you'll see people like a group of people sitting at a table, and they're all on their phones, and they're not talking, and it's just like, and I find that so like now I have a rule like if you come into my house, the phone stays in your coat or your pocket unless it's an emergency. I'm not a total tyrant, but I that drives me crazy when I'm with somebody and they're on their phone and I'm talking to them and they're just more worried about swiping and on their phone. And I'm like, really? You can't put it down for 20 minutes? And
Yeah, I
and
don't see that as being courteous.
I don't either. I think it's so rude. I'm just like, God, man. Like, I get if it's an emergency or you got to make a message or something. Okay, I understand that. But I just see people just interact. They're just like I said in groups, and they're all on their phones, and they're not talking. They're not interacting with each other, and we are losing that ability to interact more and more, which is probably explains a lot of what's why we are where we are.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes I remember going out with my ex-wife in France, sometimes we would be conscious of it and we'd be at the dinner table, we'd stack all the phones in one stack and
Mm-hmm.
no one's really touching it. We it took us a while to get there, kind of thing, but practice makes perfect, folks got to wean off of it, right? Just like you're
Yeah,
changing a diet or whatever sometimes.
it's true. Yeah, wean off it. Yeah, exactly. And then once you become aware of it, it becomes really easy actually. When you're like, oh my god, I'm on that phone again. Uh, at least I am. I know I am. I try not to, and I catch myself if I'm actually with somebody or talking to somebody, and then I'm got the phone in my hand. I just like, okay, in the pocket it goes. I don't. I mean, I'd rather have the one-on-one interaction, especially in person, because that's getting more rare to actually interact with people on person. So and I think about what you said. That's so true that we are losing that skill. Like you see people in public, they don't even know how to talk anymore to each other.
Yeah,
Wow.
and of course we're overgeneralizing, but yeah, I mean, like, there's one of the spiritual currencies is attention, and how much are people actually paying attention, when they're face to face, not having, the undivided or yeah, who's got
Undivided
the
attention.
undivided attention that and that's like that true. human to human interaction, not this, fragmented, attention span or whatever, right?
I agree. Yeah, and I wonder if that affects our empathy too when we're not like.
Hmm.
I just wonder. I mean, it's just a question I just thought of. Like, does that not being in person, does that affect it if we're just doing it through a screen? Like, can you really get that? And like I said, it's just a question, guys. Can you get that bond with somebody that you've never actually been really in person with? I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know if you heard about in this ties into the tricks of the 666
Mm-hmm.
since the dawning of the Rona of, the 6 feet of separation, not degrees, right? But
Yep.
in front, to the side, in the back. Oh, germaphobe alert, watch out. But wouldn't you know that, right around like 5 feet, there's like that. We have our own like type of electromagnetic frequencies
Mm-hmm.
emanating from our hearts, and we could feel that from other people, from like as much as 5 feet away, something like that. So yeah, there has been more of a disconnection
Yeah.
aside from the whole fear factor and all that stuff. And the fear of death is something that really drives the transhumanist agenda like to its core, I feel, because people want to act like they want to live forever in this one incarnation, totally oblivious to the fact we're eternal spirits having a human experience here right now, type of thing.
I think that's a great point, Dick, and I think it goes right back to what we were saying about the internal work. I mean, if you're not doing that work on yourself and knowing who you are and what you are, you're gonna buy into that wholeheartedly. You will fear death. I mean, think about that. Like, if you're caught into this materialistic world of just stuff, of course you're gonna fear it, right? I don't fear it. So I mean, for whatever that's worth. I mean, I'm not quite sure what it's worth, but I'm not fear. I don't need to plug Jack into the system because I'm scared to die. So I just wonder if that's maybe a major contributor to the problem is that it comes back to this. It always seems to boil back to a lot of the same things, the inner work.
Yeah, totally. That's foundational. Numero uno, amigo.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
nobody's like, I mean, a lot of people just aren't doing it. They're not. I mean, I don't know many. I always try to think of people that I'm around because it's my greatest kind of, and people I talk to. It's kind of like my gauge. I can gauge things off of. And I don't see a lot of people doing what I would call shadow work, where they're just spending time with themselves with no distractions. And I try to do it every day. Yeah, and some days I can do it longer. It depends what I'm doing, but I try to at least make some time just to spend with myself and go over things. Like I know after this interview, I will go over it. I promise you, I will be going over it inch by inch in my head.
Likewise,
Yeah,
man. Cheers.
and I'll be like, oh, I meant to say this, and I'm so hard on myself at times, but
Take it
I
easy.
definitely will. And I don't think people are doing that. A lot of people are not doing. I think they fear it. I do. I really think they fear it because they know deep down what's going on with them. That's what I think.
Yeah, it's something they're very afraid of, looking at themselves, and how many people are, because yeah, it's like having all this noise, background static and stuff, distracting us from ourselves and everything. Like once all that's gone and they have some kind of clarity and they can actually look in the mirror,
Hmm.
they might freak out pretty bad. Right?
Yeah.
'Cause a lot of them are just not used to it. A lot of people seem to have, insecurities and things like that, and just like feelings of a doubt or indecency, or not indecency, or like unworthiness.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and but it's like they're just supplementing that void with things that are outside of their true selves,
Yeah.
and it's not helping in the long run.
Yeah. Exactly, and it's so important. I know it was important for me to really do that. I always I sound like a broken record, guys. I apologize, but it was so important, and I just when it's something that's that important, I think I really wanted to let people know like you have to do the work on yourself, or you're if you don't know who you are, you're in trouble. Like you really are. I think and that's all your flaws and your warts and your all the things we're talking about. I mean, you have to confront them, and I get why they have these distractions. I really do because it's tough to do that. To be, I've had people I talk to, Derek, that they've tried to sit quiet in a room with themselves for even 20 minutes. They can't do it.
Mm.
They can't. They're like that's it was torture.
Mm.
And I think that's so powerful of a thing to think about that you can't sit in a room quiet with yourself for 20 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, why do you think a lot of people when they are reaching retirement, they are like, what am I going to do? I'm so used to my routine 9 to 5 and being in that uh,
Hamster wheel.
feedback loop. Like what am I gonna do with myself? And
Yeah, yeah. You've got time to think, and then you really start. And I mean, I just found that shocking. I still remember. I just really do when people tell me that they can't do it or it's really uncomfortable, and they're like, "Wow, the silence was deafening," and I just sat there. What am I supposed to do? I hear that a lot too. What am I supposed to do? Like I gotta just sit there, and I'm like, "Well, yeah, but it's not what I mean. I mean, you got to do some like you got to kind of. I guess it's different for every person, but I
yeah,
mean,
and what I would suggest for those that find that kind of disturbing, whatever, and this goes into meditation as well. And there's not just one way to do it in your lotus position, like just like Wim Hof breathing
that's
techniques,
amazing.
and that's like a 20-minute session in and of itself. And all you're doing is you can't say a damn thing because you're holding your breath and like breathing harder than you usually do, and
Mm-hmm.
that really does something very special. And it's kind of like you know charging up the youthing process in a sense, and it just helps out with so much of like anxiety and all this stuff, and you kind of feel more into yourself and fall into yourself a little bit more, like you're especially those profound inhales and exhales, like breathing all the way below your stomach, as far as you can go. How low can you go, bro? Anyways.
That's a great advice, though. That's a great way to start because then you're not kind of you're kind of doing something. You're not just sitting there. So yeah, that'd be a great one. I like staying out quiet out in nature. That's kind of my thing. I used to do it definitely in a room, and I went through the phase where I was staring at myself in a mirror. I thought that was really helpful, like really
Uh,
confronting myself, and I needed that. But now I'm at the point where I really enjoy doing it outside, and I've told people I get a lot of benefit from even gardening and just working with the earth and the plants and stuff in my garden
yes.
during the summer anyways. Right now I can't, but that really
Mm.
works.
Oh,
I find it I it's just I can still do the work on myself, but I'm doing something. It's kind of connecting me to the earth and very powerful. I find doing it outside, at least for me.
yeah, yeah, likewise. And I I tend to be barefoot most of the day is, maybe it's a little cold these days, but yeah, just like having moments of grounding, anywhere, and just how many people got trees around their vicinity or even their house or whatever. And how many people have, talked to them lately or any kind of plants or whatever, like as if they're not alive almost, and
Probably
yeah,
not many.
there's something about trees that's kind of special as well. And sitting under them for a minute, holding them for a little bit.
Hmm.
Ain't got to be on some weird tree hugger stuff, but
No, no, I get. it's so true. How many people have actually, yeah, thought of it that way? And just grounding is key too. I didn't know it was called grounding. I remember talking to somebody and I was like, yeah, like, have you ever walked around just your bare feet in the ground? And I'm like, I feel so amazing. They're like, oh, you're talking about grounding. I'm like, ground. Okay, I didn't know there was a word for it. Just like I didn't know there was a word for shadow work. I call it confronting my demons.
word,
You
right?
know, and I was like, I'm already doing that. I didn't know there was a term for it. Didn't know there was a term for grounding. But you don't see many people barefoot just
Yeah,
walking around. You just don't. They're disconnected even from that.
yeah, and my ex-wife, she's from Tahiti, Polynesian islands, kind of like a Hawaii in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
and folks over there, Maori and all that, uh, they have like whatever legends and all that stuff. But one of their sayings, I don't think it's like any kind of like Chinese proverb or anything like that, but like they're living barefoot, think of being on islands and this and that, and like, once man, made the technology to, create these like sandals or shoes and all this stuff, they noticed that even that 6-inch degree of separation
Hmm.
of the soul separates the soul from the earth almost.
I totally believe that. Absolutely. And just coincidental that souls are made out of rubber, which doesn't conduct electricity very well.
Yeah.
I just, yeah, Jesus.
And how much of nature got exploited and destroyed just for, the rubber in the Amazon and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, oh yeah, they're even in Canada, they're messing up nature well. I mean,
Oh,
I
y'all have so much ancient growth there too. Yeah, it's heartbreaking, man.
yeah, yeah, I hear about that. It just bothers me that they're just. I mean, I get people mad at me because I tell people that we're like locusts. I'm like, we just destroy everything we come in contact with. We just consume it, we destroy it, and then we move on. And people are they're like, I can't believe you say that about humanity. I'm like, well, that's the way I see it. I'm sorry. I just give me a reason not to think that. Look what we're doing to Earth. Like, oh my God. Like,
Yeah,
and
it's
it's
ironic. We're trying to like, we're extracting so much from the earth and raping, pillaging her and all that stuff, just to create our material edifices and these consumable things that are so easily throwawayable, disposable. We live in a plastic world as well,
oh God, yeah.
and yeah, it's way cheaper, economically speaking, by this psychotic model that they have to just like throw it all away, forget recycling. That's not viable anymore. It's not profitable or whatever.
Yeah.
We can make it cheaper. Hey, like we got the petrochemical folks. We got them locked up with the Rockefeller and all those monkeys for a good century now, in the bankster wanksters since way before then. And
Mm-hmm.
so
Very true. Yeah, I think about that because back in the, and, like, it's great that you brought that up too. Like how we just make these products that are so disposable now. Because even back when I was younger, at least they made stuff that lasted. Or now,
that's what I meant. Have you seen the light bulb conspiracy or?
I
Uh,
don't think so. Can you let me know a little bit about it?
yeah, it's called the programmed obsolescence.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
I
gotta write
mentioned
that
this
down.
in the beginning, I think, and yeah, there's a great documentary. Yeah,
Okay.
check it out. And it started off, light bulb conspiracy because you know they were trying to have that be more profitable. So they made light bulbs that could last pretty much forever almost.
Mm-hmm.
Yet they wanted to have them more fragile, more breakable, a shorter lifespan. So people would have to buy more and more frequently and all this stuff. And you could say that for so many other things. I mean, like there's another example of like women's like leggings or pantyhose or whatever. Like, they made them like pretty stretchable and snaggable, breakable before, but not anymore because they can make more money off of just,
Making more. Yeah.
yeah, when they're more disposable and they got to go out and buy more now. Yeah.
Yeah, I think because that's the one thing I have realized that even in my lifetime is that everything's so disposable now. Like people just like, oh, that TV broke. I'll go get another one. Throw the other one out. And it's like, wow. And just like, I.
They didn't want to replace the computer with like, their brain. No, I'm just kidding.
It's
Or
true
just like
too.
a monitor where they can, just have, things like, I'm not going to say screw to because there's more platforms that respect, free speech and all that good stuff, like the Odysseys and even BitChute to a degree and
Hmm.
all that stuff, even though you can find anything on YouTube except for some people speaking too much truth or whatever, right? But
Yeah, yeah, and well, at least not in code. That's the thing.
yeah,
You gotta learn how code talk on here. That's why I was saying earlier at the beginning. I love radio because, I mean, their basic one rule is like, please don't drop f bombs, like if it's possible.
yeah, I think
And if
we're
it
too loose on
happens,
that, but
if it happens, okay, but try to be aware of it. That's it. That's the only
yeah,
rule. And there's such a freedom. And then when you come back to doing an interview like this, you really notice it then. If you're doing it all the time on these platforms, I think you get kind of used to it and you don't realize the restriction. But when you got the freedom to talk about whatever you want without having to code word it or censor it, and then you come back to this, you're like, wow. So yeah, I mean, they're really they're changing the meaning of words, which is crazy. Like the
Oh.
meanings of these words are changing, and words are becoming bad that there's no reason for them to be a bad. And I'm just like, wow, they are really programming us. They're doing a great job.
Hmm. Yeah, totally. And that's kind of why I also loved the direction I started in with creating conscious content, I like to call it, even though content could be devaluing, just good works or whatever,
Right.
artistic expressions, all that stuff. Is that, yeah, hip hop, even from the foundation, used a lot of code and like decrypted messages. And what do you think slang is kind of about? Because they had to, warn folks on the block about the popo and all that stuff, bro.
Yeah. And,
Unfortunately, that's just how it goes or how it went. And yeah,
and it's been going on in one form or another through all through history. I mean, that's you've had to, even when they were engraving stuff, on tablet, they had to sometimes do it in code because there's always been this group of people, whatever you want to call them, the elite, whatever. I don't like to call them that. I don't like to give them credit, but these dark psychologists, whatever. That's what I like to call them that because they do know them what they're
yeah,
doing so well.
exactly.
And I mean, so yeah, there's always been this group trying to not to silence truth and silence good information. And this is just our battle. I think our form of it is this tech, because that's what we're using, and it's tough. I know so many content creators, Derek, that have got their channels pulled for nothing. Like, and I'm like, and they're like, the video's been up there for 5 years. I don't understand why they pulled it now. And I'm like, well, they make the rules up as they go. like,
Mm,
like they may, God knows what we're talking about right now. It will probably be fine, but in a year, who knows?
yeah, man. You can add me on the list. I've had one of my YouTube channels taken off.
Jeez, yeah, like maybe I'm not doing it right because I haven't lost one yet.
Neither, but
So
I don't know.
I mean, maybe I'm just being. I think I played a little safe. I think in a lot of respects because I'm just like, well, if I keep getting my channels pulled, how am I? I'm not really doing good. Like, I mean, it's just making it tougher. But I don't know. It's a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, it's all good. I mean, like, here's the thing, and like, yeah, getting great advice from Mari West, and yeah, like the my video got taken off of YouTube because of this video that I've been collaborating with her just on like too much age restriction, and then it got because the video I made was taken from clips off of YouTube as well. Yet they had to delete my channel because of that for what
That's okay. That's weird.
weirdest thing I've ever seen. But yeah, but yeah,
That's really straight. You're taking clips from YouTube and they pull your. Okay.
yeah,
Wow. I guess they don't want they don't want it all compiled into one good video. I guess.
not really.
Because I'm trying to think of like there's a lot of things that go on that I don't understand. Like I was saying, like the person will have a video up for a year or two or 6 months and it's fine, and then all of a sudden they'll message me, I just had it flagged, and I'm like, but it's been up forever, and they're like, yeah, I don't know, and sometimes they don't even get an excuse, no reason. They got no way to fight back because they don't even have a reason why they did it. They just did it,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just thinking like we're in such a dangerous place with this freedom of speech getting really hammered, at least on these platforms.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The point I wanted to make with her and what she says in her videos as well is that yeah, like if we're gonna be striking blows at the Matrix and this and that, they'll hit back. You know what I mean? Like so, we can be more stealth about it. More subtle, whatever, right? And just take different approaches and not having to be such a like a freedom fighter, because why we're not fighting freedom.
Yeah.
Folks might want to say we're fighting for, but whatever. But Yeah.
I just think I can do more. My reason of trying to stay a little bit under the radar and not really throw blows. It's not that I just think I can do better being on here. I mean, than getting yanked, and so
Yeah.
that's kind of
Yeah.
my thought. But on the radio, I go full bore. Like, there's no holding back on the radio because I don't have to worry about that. So I'm just like, okay, that's where I can really hit hard. And I think that I believe there's a great way to get the message out there, kind of under, kind of like what we're doing, talking about it. I think a lot of people can figure it out on their own, I would hope, and know what we're talking about. And I think a great way that you're doing it is with your music, adding it in. I
Yeah.
really do think that's cool.
Um, yeah, and like the music stuff, it's I like to call them like truth infused tapestries because a lot of times I'll like in this transhumanist mix because like one of the first people that really keyed me into all these things and really woke me up was Max Egan,
Mm-hmm. Right.
and yeah, he did a whole documentary on that. Geez, in like 2013 or something like that. And I'd like to lace quotes and sound samples from the likes of him, Seth Esposa, Manly P. Hall, Mark Passio. I mean, I've mixed over an hour of these people's, quotes sprinkled throughout all these mixes. And part of the aim of that was to, keep people into what they're saying, but also their work and, like, and their names. And hopefully they would, look them up sometime. You know what I mean?
It's a great way to do it. I think it's definitely cool. It's creative. I really do. I like it, and I'm just learning about. I was telling you before we started doing the interview that I'm just learning about some of these hip hop uh, groups and stuff that are doing songs about freedom and that. I'm more of a metal person. Everybody that watches me knows that, so it shouldn't be no surprise when I say that. I'm definitely heavy metal and hard rock, so I don't know. And I mean, over the years, there has been some hard rock bands that do try to tell what's going on. I've like in a lot. One band I always tell people is Megadeth. They've been really talking about what's like coming and what they think is coming and what's going on in the world in there. A lot of their songs, so it's there. But I didn't realize that is there a lot of hip hop that's going in that direction. Like, I'm learning quickly that there is.
Over the past 10 years, I've mixed over 100 mixes. That spans like over 150 hours of conscious hip hop. And
Wow, it's not being promoted,
within
is
that,
it?
there's, yeah, hundreds of artists.
But it's not being promoted. That's the problem.
Oh, yeah, we're not going to find that on MTV.
Well, no doubt. I didn't. Yeah, I
Yeah,
didn't realize it till I.
promoting transhumanism. I don't know if you saw the video. It's like Taylor Swift, all about transhumanism. They need the sexy figures to push that stuff. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Making robots look sexy and all that stuff. Yeah, even a great rapper by the name of Common used to be Common Sense, but he lost the sense out of it since he kind of sold out. Rapping with robots and all this stuff. In one of these videos, I included a little clip of that in this transhumanist mix I made, and like, yo, like.
So that's true. They do need them to sell it, right? Exact. That is so true. To kind of make it look sexy and hip and all of that, and you're not gonna. And you make a good point. You're not gonna see that kind of what they're singing about on like the local, like, radio station and stuff like that. Like, it's so true, and I just never realized it was that big. Just from
Mm,
I never really looked. I just never thought. I'm not, like I said, I'm not a big hip hop person. I'm
yeah,
starting to enjoy it though. I really am. Like, I've been since I've been looking more into music. I'm getting my music taste is expanding, which is, I think, a great thing. It
yeah,
really is. I was kind of limited in this hard rock, heavy metal box for so many years, and if it wasn't that, I didn't really look into it. But now I'm realizing there's so much more out there, and
what?
there is people good at putting good messages out there.
Hell yeah, yeah. And I resonate with all types of melodies, and I've been more lyrically prone to have an ear towards that. So yeah, poetry
Poetry is
and all
awesome.
that
Some of
stuff,
it.
and because where grew up was San Francisco Bay Area, and there was tons of like open mics and oodles of rappers and hip hop artists and all that stuff, and like super on the local scene, and over a dozen that were pretty fucking conscious. There's that word again, but
Oh,
no
that's
word.
okay. We were
Yeah,
right
but
past that.
So already, I was exposed to that, in when I was a teenager. So that was kind of cool. And I feel like that genre specifically, just because it's, the African American, their whole plights and their whole history of, having to deal with the system of control and domination for so long, and how that got, you know, alchemized and transmuted through their, mediums of expression through
Hmm.
music and this and that, and then later on the evolution of music, and then we got hip hop where, folks were getting more streetwise with things, and
It
they
works
wanted to
well.
grab a stage and speak for millions that couldn't, and say "f the police" or
Yep.
that kind of stuff.
It really works well for that genre. I find for getting that message, and I'm just the way it's. See, I don't know the terminology, so people are probably like, "Oh boy," but it just for me the hip hop medium is a great way to get that message because of the way it's written, and I think that the way they can say it, you can get that message really clear. And I'm just trying to think of a lot of the hard rock and heavy metal stuff that I look at. I think it would be hard to get that message with that type of heaviness. If you know what I'm trying to explain,
It's
like
been done. I've seen some fusions with like some hip hop and heavy metal stuff as
oh,
well.
fusions for sure, yeah,
Uh,
yeah, that's cool. I'm a big fan of fusion stuff like that, but I just think hip hop is a great medium for it.
yeah,
It,
yeah,
it
totally.
it just really works, and I'm the more I'm learning, I'm like, wow, there's some really great stuff out there, and they're putting that great message out there, and they're trying, and I think that's a great way. I always tell people that you don't maybe podcasting isn't your thing or doing videos or a radio show, but everybody's good at something, and there's a great way. Everybody's got a talent, I think, and use that talent to get the message out there, whether it's dance, art, music. It, there's
Like Dorian Green's, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what makes it amazing is there's so many different ways you can get your the good information out there. I think that's so important for people to realize because I've talked to people and they're like, I don't want to go on camera and do a podcast. I don't want to do anything like that. That's not me. And I'm like, yeah, but you're good at other stuff.
Hmm.
It could be poetry, writing, painting, dance. There's so many mediums, and I so that's really cool.
Yeah, writing a report or even doing like a book report on like a really great book, like The Invisible Rainbow, which talks about all these, frequencies that have been messing around with humanity since, the beginning of, radio, even probably.
Absolutely. Yeah, and so where do you the way that we're going? Because I'm trying to think how we can kind of tie
Wrap
all
it up.
this in. Where do you think?
Yeah.
Well, I know I can imagine what you're gonna say, but if we keep on this path, where do you think we're heading?
Uh,
Like,
yeah,
do
it
you?
seems there's just there. It's definitely. I'm sure you've seen this over social media of the splits of the trajectory of where AI wants to go, and the trajectory of where people want to take it back to more like the ancient future of the true organic Earth timeline. You know what I
Yep,
mean?
I agree.
Uh,
I just wonder if we got the. Do you think we can pull it back to that, to the ancient?
yeah,
Like, or are
that's
we
gonna
too
take.
far? Are we too far gone tech wise? Because I just think of where people are, how they're so plugged in. I'm just wondering, can we rein it back in
They
time?
can plug out. It'll take harder and more effort than flipping a light switch for a majority of them, but it's definitely possible. It's definitely possible to still keep some of this, technology, of course, and wield it for more better purposes, and like have it more like without the EMF crap associated to it
Oh
all. And
God, yeah,
it's really going back to like like really getting into Nikola Tesla's tech and knowledge and all that stuff.
yep,
Not the idiot smart cars, which are you can read articles about this. Don't believe me, people. But you're sitting in this electric car, everything's electronic and all this stuff. It's so smart. Wow. I'm so impressed. But your body's inundated by all these frequencies, and you're in like a Faraday cage trapped of that.
That's I never thought of it that way. You
And
know that?
there's good ways to use Faraday cages as well, right?
Yeah.
But if you're encapsulated with, EMFs and all, yeah, no.
Because I was in a Tesla
Mm,
this summer, and it was definitely an experience that I wasn't ready for. I'm not from a school where you just sit in a car and it drives on its own, and you just sit there, and I'm like, this okay, like I don't trust this. It was scary to me that it did all of this, and I was thinking this is really not good. And the person that had the car was arguing for it. They were like, "Well, the AI is more responsive than a human can ever be," and I'm like, "Yeah, okay, that may be true. I mean, but I just, it was a very uncomfortable feeling I had, and also the fact that I thought that it was really cheaply made inside, like it was really plastic.
yeah.
I was
Oh,
just
yeah,
like,
yeah.
this is. I'm like, you paid 100. I don't know what he paid. It was a lot. It was like 100 some grand for this car or something. And he got like the lower. He didn't even get the fancy model. And I was just like, wow, this is really cheap feeling to me. It's very plastic, and you're paying. And I get it. I mean, but it was a weird experience for me to be in a car that
Wow.
can just drive on its own. He just programmed where he wanted to go, and he was showing me, and it drove. And I'm impressed with the technology. It's kind of cool that it can do that, but is it where I want to go? Not, I don't think so.
No. Yeah, I'm impressed also with the laziness of people and how like, and that's another life skill people are going to lose. Driving now in the
Yeah,
future. Really, let's depend on let's have the robots take care of us and wipe our ass when we take a shit. Also, you know what I
it's
mean?
getting there. It's getting there.
Right?
It'll be.
But who's controlling all this tech? Who's that? You know
That's a good
that kind of
question.
stuff. And people, even that are smart or not, or smart, whatever. And I was gonna say like those who are on the other spectrum of where we might be, they'll still. They're like, yeah, we'll follow the money type of stuff, but they don't follow it all the way down these rabbit holes and this and that. They don't really understand like Elon Musk is who he really is. And, he even warned about AI and how it's Pandora's box, yet
Hmm.
he's got the Neuralink and stuff. He's like a double-faced guy. And like he thinks everyone thinks he's a savior now because, he's got Twitter and he's, letting it out of the shitter or whatever. It's like, yeah, he's an interesting critter and that's all cool. But, I ain't gonna play the fool and act like he's kind of some kind of savior. It's another flavor of the savior programming, anyways.
Absolutely. Great
But yeah,
point.
I've always smelled something musky about that guy.
I agree. And you're right. He was talking. He was worrying about AI forever. Like I was watching videos a few months ago about him
But
really
he's
like.
pushing it too.
Yeah, and I was like, and that's what I remember thinking too. I'm like, he's worrying about AI, but then he's on Joe Rogan talking about a Neuralink. And I'm just like, okay, like he's playing both sides, obviously. Like, and now, like you're right, everybody because he took over Twitter and unbanned everybody. Basically, everybody's looking at him like, and he's kind of revealed some things. They're falling for it. They're like, oh my god, he's
Yeah,
amazing. He's exposing the system. I'm like, he is the system. What are you talking about?
yeah, and I'm not bashing him hard uh, for that. I'm sitting back and like, all right, yeah, that's cool. That's a plus. I'm not gonna, say that's a bad thing that he did, but yeah, people's reaction of like, yeah, he's the shit and this and that, and they, like, short-sighted. Like, do they know who his mother is?
Right?
Have you seen his mother and like, all that satanic stuff going on over there? And what about his partner and all that stuff? It's just weird, man.
When
Makes
you
me think
start
of like,
pulling back the layers, you're like, wow, we're getting into some dark shit, man. And it's true. It really is.
yeah.
And I,
It's
I
like
have,
this fake
I,
ass Tony Stark character, like I ain't impressed. And like, how much money did he borrow from the United States government to get his stuff going?
mm-hmm.
How much has he paid back? And how many more billions does he need? How much do these Teslas really need to cost? Like, get out of here! Like, I saw through that shit to begin with. I
Yeah,
mean, it's like,
and yeah, my buddy paid a lot of money for his. Like, I mean, I remember, and I'm being dead serious when I remember when he brought it over. I remember looking at it, going, it's kind of cheap looking. Like I can't help it. Like and
Yeah.
that was my true reaction, guys. I was like, and I was pushing like on the. I was sitting inside. And I was pushing on the it looked like wood, like the dashboard. I was pushing it. It was just flimsy plastic. I'm like, dude, this is really cheap stuff. And he was like, yeah, you're paying for the tech. And I'm like, okay, you paid 100 grand for a screen. I get it.
And that big ass battery, it's like the thing that weighs the most in that car. And I don't know if you saw a meme on floating around internet land, but you got an old school car from the 50s era. It's like that way, just the car door of that weighs about the same as these cars, Teslas and
But
all.
those cars were built to last back then. I mean, you could
Yeah,
roll
right.
those cars or something, and they would just have a little scratch on them.
Uh-huh.
And I just yeah, and it's crazy, and that's my answer, guys. When I was in the Tesla, I mean, I just letting people know. I just thought, wow, it's really And then you get people say, yeah, but we're getting off the gas. We're doing better because we're going to electric. And I'm thinking, you've never even looked at how much energy it costs to make the batteries and these cars and all of that, and you're not saving the environment by buying these cars.
No.
You're not yet, is what I would say.
Yeah, and all this talk about lithium and how it might be this finite resource. Well, what's after that? What's next? And all this stuff. And
Good point.
but yeah, going back to Nikola Tesla, he had wireless technology, free energy systems, and not this like dirty electricity. I think there's a book with that title called Dirty Electricity. It's really fascinating. I listened to a podcast from Greg Carwood on the Higher Side Chat show.
Mm-hmm.
He interviewed the author, and it's just like my eyebrows would probably raise the whole entire time of just like how dirty the electricity really is, just like the wires, you know, just that alone.
Yeah, I learned that
Now
too
it's all
about.
connected, and yeah, man.
I learned about that about electricity too. Like when you start taking a meter and even going around your wall outlets and stuff like that, and how much is coming through them.
Mm,
And I'm just like, wow, like it's really everywhere, and it's not as what people think. It's not clean like people think. Or and Tesla, that's where we should be heading. That I wish that's where we were heading.
yeah, what is it? 0 point.
Yeah,
Um,
crazy stuff. That fascinating too. When I started looking into Tesla too, and no coincidence that everything got shut down from that too. I mean, the last thing they want is free energy for people, right? Like they're not gonna let that happen. Not
oh
without a
yeah,
fight.
how are they gonna make those millions again?
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I think of all the stuff that people pay for like that, like and stuff that we should not have to pay for. And I think of that with electricity. I think that with water. And I think about a lot of things actually. That it doesn't make sense. That why?
Yeah, there's a great presentation. I think it was at the Free Your Mind conference. One of those. I don't know if you saw those, but
Yeah, I
Bob
did. Yep,
Tuskin, he did one called Scarcity-Based Mind Control.
yep.
It's a really good one.
Well, that they sell that right. There's scarcity and
Went
there.
there?
Yeah. Well,
Man. Yeah.
the scarcity one's a great one. They're playing it now. I find in a lot of the channel. I watched a few channels, and now they're talking about because of what's going on in Ukraine and that there's going to be scarcity of food. There's going to be scarcity of everything, and they're
Manufactured.
yeah manufactured. I tell people that all the time. I'm like, don't buy into what they're telling you. Like they want that fear, and then now I'm hearing about people panic buying and stuff, and I'm like, here we go again. Like they play the same shit over and over again, and I just see people falling for it. It's just like really, like you haven't learned anything for the last few years.
Yeah, they really thought shit hit the fan then,
Oh my
and
god.
they're out to shit a brick, and they're running around and shit. Yeah, it's a shitty situation. That's why they're all buying all the toilet paper, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I
They don't
remember that
understand
too.
the true shit of the kakistocracy. I don't know if you know that word, but kakistocracy, ruled by the shit people, kaka,
Yeah, yeah.
video on that.
God, yeah. Well, I'm telling you, hey, the big toilet paper scare that happened in my town too. So, I didn't even want to believe it. I was like, there can't be people panic buying ass wipe. And then my buddy's like, let's go to Walmart and I'll show you. And we went to the parking lot, and oh my god, I couldn't believe people were leaving with buggyfuls of toilet paper and paper towel. And I was like, I don't know, caveman have been wiping their ass. They wiped their ass for millions of years with leaves and moss, and they did fine. Like, do we really have to fight over toilet paper and really, like, I mean, okay, but it worked. It just showed me how easily they do it. And then when it happened with this, Rona, that really showed me. It opened my eyes to how quickly they can steer us in any direction that they want with social media and how powerful it is. So I think maybe that's a great thing to end on, is we can talk about for a few minutes, is the power of social media and how it can steer people, in all forms, with music and movies and everything.
Yeah, yeah, it's a great point to end on, man. And it really, I was writing something for this Facebook group that I'm kind of organizing or temporarily in charge of. I actually invited you on, but yeah, I mean, thinking about it, of it, just like with so much in life, like you're gonna get out of it what you put into it, and what are people putting into it, and what kind of mind state is behind all that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or is it just for entertainment purposes? They got the vanity or materialistic base level consciousness operating from there much lately?
Right.
Maybe not
Exactly.
us, like
Yeah, so
we always got
right.
to check in with ourselves and make sure we're being, take a little ebb into the flow. You know what I mean?
I totally get what you're saying. Yeah, and I just think that people need to do that. They got. I think we made a lot of great points tonight, Derek.
Like that.
Unplug it for once in a while. I mean, we you have to, and really realize what they're doing with social media, and they're using how they use it against us, and that it's really important to realize how easily they can steer you with it. And I'll always stress that. I see all these trends come and go, and these things that are popular one minute, gone the next, and everybody wants to get it. These new things, new phones, the newest tech, everything. Everybody's just grabbing for it. All these just filling this void that they have. And I guess I would end it with saying, get back to yourself. Like, I don't know. What
Yeah.
advice do you have for people? Like, what do you want to say to wrap it up?
Yeah, I mean, so
I mean, we've covered so much, but it was amazing.
remember when people used to talk shit on the internet like it was in the 90s or something like
Mm-hmm.
that? Now people, that's like the bane of their existence or something. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, get back to the true core essence of yourself, and uh try to interact with the digital world the same as you would in the real world, in a sense, like as far as like talking with people. I take the approach of just, if I have anything, even like, talk, like, oh, you're gonna talk behind someone's back, or, when they're not in the room. My approach is, just let, sticking to the codes of consciousness, natural morality, or like Corey likes to call it, or objective morality, like Mark likes to call it, right?
Yep.
Like, I wouldn't be saying anything to the person behind their back that I wouldn't say to their face. And that goes the same in the digital space and all that stuff.
Yeah. But that's
And I
good
think that's,
advice.
and yeah, and also like what is one's, how's your self-talk within yourself, and the inner dialogue and the relationship one has with themselves.
Very important.
Usually, when you done the shadow work, like Rick and I, we can understand and see very objectively and clearly that people are running on a lot of programs and projecting a lot of unconscious, stuff, unhealed traumas, and the
Mm-hmm.
whole nine, right?
Absolutely. Very,
Yeah.
very
So,
true. And I learned very quickly too that I was brutal on myself. I don't think people realize how they talk to themselves and
mm,
what they say to themselves. And
yeah,
when I started becoming conscious of that, I was like, wow, I really say some horrible things about me to myself. Like, and that matters. It matters what you say to yourself. And that was a really big thing that I realized. And I think a lot of people don't even realize they're doing it. That they're just like they're on this, it's like a program running in the background, that are just constantly doubting themselves and putting doubt into themselves and thinking they're not good enough. And it's always playing in the background. And
mm,
that's when you become aware of it, you can kind of stop it. And now I'm very conscious of it now. Like, it's instant when I catch, and I still slip. I'll be trying something. I'll be like, I'm not smart enough to learn that, and I catch myself right away. I'm like, wait, that's not true. But it's just it's amazing how it's so quick that that you think that without even really get it. Just it's there.
Hmm.
You got to be aware of it though before you can change it.
Hell yeah, man. Yeah, great points. And I mean, yeah, I've been able to flip the script on my own self-talk of how I used to be kind of negative and just
Yeah.
being like super patient and gentle with myself and just laughing about it in the end, like, what's the big deal really? And like understanding like I can have some pretty steep learning curves, even when it comes to like
Mm-hmm.
learning some of the, these new software programs to do better videos or something like that, or, get the grips on OBS or whatever, like it can be very frustrating. And I noticed, like growing up, like, computer bugs or things like that, they would piss me off like beyond belief sometimes, man. It's like, it's just the tech. And like the fact that it's not human, you just want to, it kind of dehumanizes how you look at that object, if you will, and
Yeah.
you smash a couple of things or whatever sometimes. Not like I really did, but yeah.
It definitely gets tech is frustrating at times. I'll vouch for that. I
Mm,
mean, I have oh my, I get so frustrated, and that's when I walk away. That's when I get
yeah.
to that point where I'm just like, I'm done. I'll be back, and I'll come back in a few hours or tomorrow. It'll still be there,
Mm,
and I that's great advice, Derek. Honestly, be a little easy on yourself. I mean, but I would also caveat that with saying, don't be too easy on yourself either. There's a time where I know when I'm doing the work on myself and I'm in that moment, I'm very, I wouldn't say hard on myself. I would say honest with
mm,
myself. And if you want to call that hard, I guess people can, but I think there's a difference. But then I also love the part that you're saying, like, love yourself and, give yourself a break every once in a while. Like, I mean, then
yeah.
laugh a little and get out and in the nature. I mean, I just so much good advice that we can give. I think people need to start connecting back first with themselves and then get back to nature. I that's where I keep, my conversations always seem to go there.
Yeah. And hey, advice for all those single people out there, like keep it 100% honest with yourself and like use that law of attraction to really, get what you're looking for. And you can go out and on a date with yourself and have a picnic in nature by yourself,
Yeah,
and you're having a relationship with yourself and nature at the same time. It's a win-win, you
that's
know.
so true. Going, yeah, that's great, man. I never even thought of it that way. You
I learned
know,
it from one of the best.
that is really cool, dude. Like, why
Yeah.
not? Yeah, like what is it go and like it's not a bad thing to be by yourself and just kind of enjoy your own company and be out in nature. I love it. I do it all the time. I like I was saying earlier, I love to sit out in my yard and just be present and then very aware of what's going on around me in nature. So I think that's great advice, man. Like, wow, very
Yeah,
cool.
like,
And I think I know where it came from too.
yep. Yeah,
Which
I
is
hope
awesome, man. I mean, I thank you
that's.
so much, Derek, for joining me, and I hope you will come back. You're always welcome. I would love to do a part two.
Oh wow, yeah, Rick. Really honored, and it's been a pleasure. Learned a lot today from you. Yeah, just great talking a little bit more and getting to know you more. And yeah, man,
Absolutely, yeah. I really
gotta.
appreciate the work you're doing too. I love it. I'm be watching more of your work for sure because I just like that music aspect that you add to it. It's different, as I was saying, and I like it. It's cool.
Yeah, and I've been checking out what y'all got it going on with what you've been doing with John and just with your own stuff as well. And yeah, yeah, it's hard to keep up with everyone like we were talking earlier, and
Oh,
like
it's
so many
impossible.
creators now in the network or whatever. So yeah,
It's impossible. I try. People will be like, "Did you see this person's video?" I'm like, No, I want to," and then I eventually get to it, and then by the time I get to it, they've made four more. So it's a
right.
constant like catching up. But yeah,
Hmm.
definitely. I'll make sure I put links in the description for your channel. So I will hope people and I'll give you the last couple of minutes. Do you want like let everybody know what you're working on, where they can find your work?
Oh yeah.
Let everyone know, buddy. The floor is yours.
Well, I thank you. Yeah, I appreciate you allowing me to be taking the time to. Yeah, my DJ moniker is Awakening Mind. That's only one word with the YA in between awaken and mind. Wow, it's not that hard to find, and yeah, I got some a couple mixes in the project. I'm gonna be doing a very interesting video series that's going to be throughout the whole next year. Uh, Watch this space, dissolving the divide, and Rick, we're gonna have you on. It's gonna be co-hosted between myself and Leslie Powers,
Cool.
and we're looking to really get at the heart of the matter, and breaking through all these dialectics and divides that just had, like we talked about with a lot of stuff. And yeah, I'll send you my link tree. It's got, the bit shoots and the YouTuberies and Odysseys and
Perfect.
other good stuff that y'all ought to see. So yeah.
That'll be awesome. I'll make sure I definitely send me the link tree so I can put it in the description. That way they can get everything of yours and check it out. And I hope you guys do. A lot of great stuff that Derek's doing, guys. So please check it out, guys, for real. And I think you'll really like it. Great stuff, guys. So and thank you so much, Derek. Like I said, you're always welcome back, my friend.
Yeah, it means a lot to me, Rick. Honestly, appreciate it so much.
Cool, man. Cool, and thank you so much, guys. And so I'll let you go, Derek. But I will keep in touch, my friend. I promise.
Right on, right on.
All righty, take care, my
So,
friend.
much love you.
All right, take care, my brother.
Peace.
Well, there we have it. I always like to wrap it up by saying what an amazing interview. I enjoyed Derek's company and this discussion so much, guys. Like, I love to have these discussions about so many things and these important topics. And I think this is one of them. I just really find myself spending a lot of time thinking about what tech is doing to our world in so many different levels. And I just find myself all the time really going there and thinking about it. And I just, as I was saying at the beginning with Derek, the world is just moving so fast and things are increasing so fast and tech is going so fast that people, I think they're just not used to it. They're not used to the pace of it and they're fighting to catch up. And then when they kind of make a little bit of headway and start getting a little closer, I think it just speeds up again. And it's really, it's a tough discussion, I think, because as we were saying earlier, I see the good sides of it too. So I don't ever want to come across as all tech is bad and we should do away with it, because I definitely don't think that. I mean, as I was saying, tech makes what I do possible, makes my radio show possible, it makes me connecting with these amazing people that I'm bringing on for interviews, and I've met so many incredible people over the last year through tech and doing great things, and people that I speak with and are doing amazing things with tech and they're using it for good. But then I also think, like how much bad things are happening with tech and how it's being used definitely as a weapon. And as we were kind of saying, Derek and I were saying near the end, they can really steer people with this tech out there. And social media to me is one of the major battlefronts. I mean, at times it is so toxic and a lot of keyboard warriors out there, that's for sure. And so I just hope people see both sides of it and try to realize that yes, it's cool to, pull away from it. And I hope people do that. I know, like I was saying, I do. I try, I do this and I do my radio show, but I also like to pull away and, as I was saying, get out in nature when I can. Little hard now with the being winter here. So, I mean, you're not spending too much time out there. It's just really cold. So, this is a rough time of year for me, guys. Like, by the end of the winter and spring gets here, I'm about at wit's end at times. And I just am so happy when spring finally gets here so I can get back out and do more in nature and when the weather gets better. But it's okay to pull out, guys, and pull back. And it's also, as I was saying, tech has got its good points. It definitely does. But I just see what's going on and I see where we're going and how eager people are to kind of integrate into this system. And I think I'm really curious if I could do a poll that if people could give up this physical life, this world as we know it that they're living in right now, and be downloaded into like a program, like a virtual world, would they do it? And I really have a bad feeling that most people would really consider it. And the way they keep pushing this is a great thing. And we were saying the celebrities out there pushing it, that this is a great thing, that we're going to merge with tech and with AI and be plugged in constantly, like 24/7 to this matrix, this system, to me just scares the shit out of me. But seems to be like a lot of people want this. And so it's just something to think about, guys. I don't want to talk too much here at the end. It was a great interview. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please make sure that you check the links in the description and check out Derek's work. Great stuff. I really enjoy it. I think the music aspect that I was saying is a really cool twist to it, and it's creative, and it's a different way of seeing it, and I really enjoy it. So please check it out, guys, and I will try to get him back on again for sure because I really enjoyed this conversation. So he's, like I said, you're always welcome back, Derek, and you guys are also welcome back anytime too, for sure. Thank you so much, guys, for all the support that you show me. It means the world to me. It really does, and I'll be back very soon. Keep, hit the subscribe button and the bell or whatever they say, because that way you'll know every time I post a new interview. I got lots already wrapped up. I just got to get them out there. So, check back often, guys. And I will be back with another great interview very soon. So take care, guys. Look after each other. And I will be back soon. Peace, guys.
Are you interested in the paranormal? Murder mysteries, cryptocurrency, and thought-provoking interviews? Then check out Crypt Rick's I've Been Thinking on YouTube, or every Monday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Studio A at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. Welcome to the Crypt.